All right, if you have charge-offs that's on your consumer reports, this video is for you. So let's go ahead and jump and get into it. So, charge-offs occurs when a creditor removes an account from active receivables and treats the balance as a loss for accounting purposes, typically after extended delinquency, okay? Now, I'm gonna give you guys some few key legal facts. A charge-off is not debt forgiveness. A lot of people think just because they write those accounts off that they're forgiven, but they're not. Okay. It is not a judgment. It does not eliminate disclosure notice or accuracy obligations, and it must still be reported accurately and lawfully. A charge-off is a factual claim, and factual claims must be supported by records demonstrating compliance with federal law. Now, why charge-offs are often disputable: missing or non-compliant billing statements, inaccurate balances, improper delinquency calculations, furnishings based on internal databases instead of disclosures actually provided to the consumer. And if required disclosures were not provided, the charge-off is procedurally defective regardless of where the money is owed or not. All right. Now, I'm also going to speak about late payments because late payments actually lead up to the charge-offs. Now, a late payment is reported when a creditor asserts that a required payment has not been received by the due date reflecting on a billing statement, right? So you may see on your consumer reports where it says 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and then it says CO, which means it has been thrown into, it has been charged off, okay? They may remain on the consumer report for up to 7 years, but only if it is lawfully reported. Now, when a late payment may be reported, a creditor may not report a late payment as late unless a compliant periodic statement has been mailed or delivered, the statement has provided at least 21 days prior to the due date, the amount due and the due date were accurately disclosed, and the required negative notice obligations were met. So yes, even though it may be true that you may have been late and you may have these charge-offs, but before they can actually furnish that negative information to you guys consumer reports, they still have an obligation to follow the Truth in Lending Act and Regulation Z and the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which is I'm about to get into now. So hopefully you guys have your pen and you have your paper and you're writing this information down. If not, I do have a school community group where you can go and look and you can join my school. It is called the Rebirth Entrepreneurs. Please make sure that you guys join that group. I have Q&As that I do. You have all the recordings in there. You have the recordings for the teachings and the lessons that I actually do, like I'm currently doing now for consumer laws. Going over dispute letters. You will have access to my dispute packets, like debt collection packages, and things of that nature. All those have like your round one, round two escalation letters, complaints. I should tell you how to do complaints and things of that nature. So if you do not have, or you have not enrolled into my school community group, please do so that you can get all these recordings and everything that you would need. Okay. Again, it's called the Rebirth Entrepreneurs. Now, back to the lesson. So, when it comes to the Truth in Lending Act and Regulation Z, it is 15 USC 1637B. It was implemented by Regulation Z, which is 12 CFR 1026.7B. Now, the law requires for open-end consumer credit accounts. It states that creditors must provide periodic billing statements, which clearly disclose the amount due, due date, outstanding balance. It also states that mail or deliver the statement at least 21 days before the due date. 12 CFR 1026.5B2 further requires disclosures to be delivered in a form that the consumer can retain, right? Now, you may ask, well, why does this matter? It matters because if a creditor cannot demonstrate that a compliant periodic statement was mailed or delivered at least 21 days before the due date, the consumer was not provided legally sufficient notice, okay? And any resulting delinquency is unsupported. This is why I use consumer laws when it comes to doing disputes, and I get my deletions legally, okay? Because they cannot prove anything that they have done. They cannot keep that information onto you guys' consumer report. Now, 15 USC 1666B is implemented by Regulation Z, which is also 12 CFR 1026.13. Now, what constitutes a billing error? Okay, a billing error includes a statement of an amount that's not owed, failure to properly credit a payment, and inaccurate balance caused by disclosure or accounting errors. Okay, now application to late payments and charge-offs. If a delinquency or a charge-off is reported without compliant disclosures or based on unsupported balances, the reporting reflects a billing error under the Truth in Lending and Regulation Z, which is why I use these laws when it comes to late payments and when it comes to charge-offs, because they cannot be outside of compliance when it comes to disclosures and just report all those negative information or those negative items on your consumer report. For example, even if you have been late, or you're, let's say for 3 months you have been late, but guess what? If they have not sent you that billing statement 21 days before the billing due date for you to make your payment, then they cannot legally report that their information has been late because they have not done their due diligence prior to and followed those consumer laws, right? Same thing for the negative information notice, even if the account is in a negative or derogatory status. Again, the Fair Credit Reporting Act says that that negative information notice must go to you prior to 30 days, right? Now, let's go into the Fair Credit Reporting Act now that I mentioned it. So, that section would be 15 USC 1681 S2A7. It's called the Negative Information Notice. Before furnishing negative information to a consumer reporting agency, a furnisher must provide a clear and conspicuous notice. They must inform consumers that negative information may be furnished, provide the notice before or no later than 30 days after first furnishing the negative information. Now, failure to provide the notice places the furnisher out of compliance, which is exactly why I use this law to delete late payments and to delete charge-offs as well. Now, 15 USC 1681 IA5, deletion or modification, right? It says after a reinvestigation, if information is inaccurate, incomplete, or cannot be verified, and in most cases, they are incomplete and definitely cannot be verified, right? So they must delete that information, right? 15 USC 1681 IA6B3, method of verification. After a dispute is marked verified, a consumer has the right to request a description of their method of verification used, identification of the furnisher contacted. The right exists to ensure the reinvestigation was reasonable and lawful. Now, normally you would send this method of verification to the consumer reporting agencies, because in some cases they will, like I always say, that it's been verified. Okay, so how did you verify? What method was used? Who did you speak to? In that case, what was the procedures? Now, so I'm just going to go over a letter that I do have when it comes to the disputes. And this particular letter here goes to the consumer reporting agencies. I made it short, quick, and straight to the point. It says that I am disputing the accuracy and completeness of the following account reported to my consumer credit file. I list the creditor name and the account number. The reported late payments and or charge-offs constitute factual assertions requiring compliance with the Truth in Lending Act, Regulation Z, 12 CFR 1026, and the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Pursuant to 15 USC 1637B and 12 CFR 1026.7B, periodic billing statements must be mailed or delivered at least 21 days prior to the payment due date and must accurately disclose the amount due and due date. Absent verification that compliance statements were properly delivered, the reported delinquency is unsupported. Additionally, under 15 USC 1666B and 12 CFR 1026.13, reporting amounts not owed or information rendered inaccurate due to disclosure failures constitutes a billing error. Please conduct a reinvestigation as required by law pursuant to 15 USC 1681 IA5. If the disputed information cannot be verified as accurate and complete, it must be deleted or modified. All right. And again, that was for the consumer reporting agencies. Short, simple, straight to the point. Now, I also have one that you would send to the furnisher, because when you're doing disputes, you want to send your letters to the furnisher and you want to send it to the consumer reporting agencies. So here's the one for the furnisher. This correspondence constitute a direct dispute submitted pursuant to 15 USC 1681 S2A7. I list the creditor name, the account number again. I dispute the accuracy of the late payments and or charge-off being furnished regarding this account. Under 15 USC 1637B and 12 CFR 1026.7B, periodic statements must be mailed or delivered at least 21 days prior to the due date, reporting a delinquency required, such as disclosures were properly provided. Further, 15 USC 1666B and 12 CFR 1026.13 define billing errors to include reporting amounts not owed or information rendered inaccurate due to disclosure or accounting deficiencies. Additionally, pursuant to 15 USC 1681 S2A7, furnishers must provide a negative information notice prior to or no later than 30 days after furnishing negative information. Please conduct a reasonable investigation and correct or delete any information that cannot be verified as accurate and compliant. So that's it, you guys. These are the my letters that I actually use when it comes to late payments and when it comes to charge-offs. And again, as I stated, I simply go for compliance, because if they are not in compliance, regardless of the fact if you had late payments or if the account is charged off, that does not mean that they still does not have to do their due diligence and provide us with disclosures, and follow the law and just furnish these negative information into our consumer reports. All right, so that's it for tonight. This goes over late payments and charge-offs. I actually will drop the links for all for these packets that I put together for charge-off and late payments. It's all in one, so I will drop the link. And also, of course, I will also drop the link for you guys to schedule a consultation with me if you need my assistance with getting your credit fixed. That's it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.